The city of Esfahan towered above all others for 100 years. It beguiled travelers who came to marvel at what the human mind could create and the heights to which God and Islam could raise the human spirit. Here was the city upon which the legend of Persia was built, a name that still evokes a sense of culture and of civilization and of glory. Strange then that this same country, under its modern name of Iran, conjures in the Western mind entirely different images. Images of fanaticism, of revolution, and of dark forces at work. In the labyrinth of the Esfahan bazaar, you can search out a sense of old Persia that lingers still.
Persian carpet, the best in the world, and Isfahan, the best in the Persia.
Ali Isfahani Nekoe naturally wants to promote the obvious virtues of his wares, but it's the virtues of his people that he extols with most passion.
I really believe that they are the greatest nation all around the world.
Like many of his people, Ali is distressed that Iranians are so often portrayed as fanatics driven by hatred.
If a foreigner in all Iran asks from one person for help, they don't wait, they don't doubt on it. They do as much as they can for a foreigner.
If you look beyond the image of a fanatical Islamic nation, you find a people preoccupied with matters far more mundane than exporting religious revolution. "90 kilometers through the desert north of Esfahan lies Jushagan. Like most Iranian villages, its population gets smaller and older as the young head off in search of wealth in the cities. Ashraf and her daughter spend up to 7 months weaving each carpet, for a return of perhaps $100. Money they desperately need, but which buys less and less in today's Iran.
همش خامه نخش گرون شده، مزد نداره، ما قالی میبافیم. خب جنسش که مال خودمون نی، باید بخریم. میخریم باید خودمون مثلا کار که میکنیم رو بذاریم. هیچی برامون نتیجه نداره. اصلا نتیجه نداره.
Hers is a worry shared by most of Iran's 50 million people, a concern which today drives Iranian politics. The Iranian Revolution was conceived in political repression, born into social and economic chaos, and nurtured by the most bloody war in half a century. When Saddam Hussein invaded, hundreds of thousands willingly died to defend the revolution. Today, unity in war is a thing of the past. The mullahs who run the country are now deeply divided. The monolithic face of modern Iran is still put on show for special occasions. Old enemies are berated in a show of fervour and unity that becomes increasingly hollow as each annual celebration of the revolution passes by. The Ayatollah Khomeini is dead. His successors are split between those who hold on to his isolationist principles and pragmatists who want Iran to rejoin the international mainstream. Iran is not greatly loved by the West, nor in fact by its Arab neighbours. Do you think now is the time to start changing those perceptions?
We have to be opener, and we have to have a better media, a better language of addressing issues, some of our papers might sometimes adopt a provocative language. Second,
Rajai Kharazani is part of today's dominant pragmatic faction in government, but there are still areas of no compromise. It seems to me that the single most important thing that Iran could do to improve its image would be to lift the fatwa against Salman Rushdie.
no, it is not possible, and I don't think that it will solve the problem. If this interview is intended to find a way for withdrawing the fatwa, it's not going to work.
6 years, almost to the day, since the fatwa was passed against Salman Rushdie. Can you not understand the shock with which it was received in the West?
No one from the Iranian officials or Iranian administration is after carrying out the fatwa. It is not the intention of the government or the program of the government to go and carry it out. No one.
Would you be happy as a Muslim if Rushdie was killed as the fatwa dictates?
You see, those who even carry out such a verdict, they themselves don't feel pleased. They don't enjoy it, definitely. It's a very difficult job to do. But when it is done, it is the right thing which is done.
Such views are hardly likely to endear Iran to the non-Islamic world, nor is the publicly hostile face it constantly shows to the West. The aggressive face of Islam, even if stage-managed, undermines Iran's denials of the catalogue of charges levelled against it. Iran, one perception, a country that supports terrorism abroad. True or false?
False. Completely false.
Does Iran condemn any attack on civilians in any other country, no matter what the reason?
We condemn any terrorist attempt by anybody against anybody.
Against any civilians?
Any civilian.
No matter what religion, including
Definitely.
Jewish?
No. Our Jewish fellow countrymen are highly respected. We respect them, we love them.
Against Israelis?
Against those Israelis who are doing the same against Palestinians, it might be justified.
But against, say,
Israeli
embassies
abroad? Let me tell you
abroad?
something.
What about Israeli embassies abroad?
Let's make a distinction between terrorist acts and between those people who are fighting each other. I think Palestinians and Israelites are at war.
The Islamic bomb. Does Iran want nuclear weapons?
Definitely not. We strongly fight for denuclearization of the Middle East at large.
Iran does not want an
We
Islamic
neither
bomb.
want nor wish to make any attempt to even test it experimentally.
Iran has set out on a holy war, a jihad, to export the Islamic revolution to the rest of the world. True or false?
True and false. You cannot export Islam by force. Islam, like all cultural phenomena, can be exported only through peaceful methods.
The government might wish to export the Islamic revolution, but Iranians themselves are increasingly looking for more than spiritual sustenance and political dogma. The ski slopes north of Tehran have never been this busy in 16 years. Men and women have to ski segregated slopes, but they're united in pursuit of distraction from their daily worries. Such worries are pervasive, even to men like Ali Rashkadar, who remain true believers in the revolution.
یعنی ما از لازم معنوی به لطف ایزد منان سفرمون رزق و روزیمون سر جاش هست ولی خب مشکل اقتصادی تو میاد حقیقت رو قبول کرد فشار اقتصادی به این مملکت هست جنس گرونتره سخت‌تر گیر ما میاد
At the factory where he's an Islamic trade union leader, Ali still promotes the Islamic spirit on the workshop floor and in the factory mosque. But if 16 years is a long time for true believers like Ali to maintain the spiritual struggle, many of his countrymen are quite simply growing impatient.
After the bloodshed, after the hardship that they went through, and after especially that the oppressive war which we had for 10 years with Iran, the people want a better life.
Dr. Fahad Basri is the boss of Ali's factory. He believes today's Iranians want the comforts of this life, not the next. Like the refrigerators, the washing machines, the air conditioners, for which demand far exceeds supply. Dr. Basri is one of thousands of wealthy Iranian exiles encouraged to return by a regime desperate to regain the business acumen it lost during the revolution.
Actually, I felt much better when I came home than before, because the kind of propaganda or kind of information which we had back in United States, we expected a much, much tougher time, much more restriction.
Yet the mullahs remain afraid of Western influence. This year they're trying to ban 250,000 private satellite dishes that bring in everything Western, from news to rock and roll. For the children of exiles like Dr. Basri's son Farouz, it's a lifeline, while for other Iranians, it's about the only glimpse of what the outside world has to offer.
Saturday on Star Plus.
Ethics is science of morality.
It's like I'm paying you, and he wants something done without being paid. So I'm the one...
Cocooned in an international school that caters especially to the children of exiles, Farouz and his classmates find themselves confronting issues they've never encountered.
Of course.
You can bribe anybody anywhere.
No, that's not true. What do you think is easier to bribe someone in Somalia or in America?
It doesn't make a difference. It's still the same idea.
It's not the same idea, okay? Because the people that are poor, they'll do it.
You can bribe anybody anywhere.
Everywhere. Did you hear about the news about financial corruption in the States?
Of course.
There is everywhere in the world because of the lack of
But it's not always wrong.
religion
It's
and
not always,
ideology.
No.
Huh?
It's not the lack of religion.
Of course it is.
That's it. They
What,
are
the lack
selfish.
of... because people are bribing each other, you're going to say that's the lack of religion?
That's it. There is no bound. There is no... One more.
Oh, why would you do that?
The boys are Iranians, insiders, but their background gives them an outsider's perspective.
Yes!
It's obviously difficult to come back.
Yeah,
But
when
one
I
of the
first
things
came
that
back, I thought I'd see people with ski masks holding like machine guns. But it's not like that.
It's nothing like that.
Clear why the people think
it's
of that.
nothing like
'Cause
that.
every time I saw on NBC or anything, any pictures of Iran, it was always downtown.
What was that movie?
They just show rallies of people marching and screaming stuff. And they only show terrorism on the TV.
Whenever there's any talking about terrorism, like
Iran
the first name that comes up is Hezbollah,
yeah.
and Iran paid for it, you know.
Iran is trying to build a new society, or at least resurrect the values of an old one. But the mullahs have so far failed to strike a balance between ancient Koranic principles and the realities of the 20th century. Iranians have accepted Islamic rule, but they still want what the West has on offer. The mullahs have not yet come to terms with that, just as the West has failed to come to terms with them.